And some of the exceptions are well known. You're dealing with a disciplinary matter or an employee or the discharge or allegations even against an employee. The employee can request to go into a closed session, and if they change their mind, then you come back out. But that's up to the employee. And then you're going to buy or purchase, or you're going to purchase or rent property, absolutely a closed session. If you're going to discuss with an attorney a matter of a lawsuit that's been filed, it's a closed session because you're going to be receiving legal advice. One that's not listed in there but has been imposed by the courts is that if you will consider a legal memorandum with your attorney that's written, as long as it's written, you can go into closed session for that. But specifically, with relationship to this committee, we were looking at whether you could go into closed session to discuss an applicant's or petitioner's request for relief from the board. And initially, you would feel that you could, and Section 3, which applies mostly to the Veterans Trust Act, had an exception that says the Open Meetings Act does not apply to cases of emergent need. Well, that led to, like I said, you do this on first impression sometimes, and I think it's the reason that some other jurisdictions maybe perhaps are doing it wrong. That might lead you to believe, well, this is for emergency relief, therefore we can go into closed session and so forth. But that's not what it says. It says emergent relief, and it defines it. It means the board determines that an immediate action is required. And then it says any action taken must be reconsidered at the next regular or special meeting, which indicates it wasn't really about closed sessions. It wasn't about the closed session aspects of the Open Meetings Act. It was about the notice and delay aspects of the Open Meetings Act. As you know, even to hold a special meeting on an emergency basis, normally you would have to post it for 18 hours. And then you could hold a meeting, not necessarily a closed session, but you could hold a meeting, and you'd have to state, there's rules about it, you state the purpose and so forth, and you can hold your meeting. But that's not necessarily a closed session. When it says that they would report it at the next regular or special meeting, that indicates that it's still not meant to be closed. So the answer is, at least from our analysis downstairs, that normally you would not go into closed session for the purpose of considering a petitioner's request. You're just like, and for the very reasons of the general rule of the Open Meetings Act. You are spending the public's money, and they have a right to know where it goes. Now, I understand you use numbers sometimes to identify an applicant. I don't see a problem with that. In your minutes that you put out, if you put applicant number 12 received X amount of dollars due to medical bills and you know, whatever else, and this is how much they received and so forth, or they met the threshold and did this and this was provided, that's sufficient. But though the names along with each numbers are available through Freedom of Information Act. People can get them. Again, the public has a right to know where that money's going. They have a right to, if they want to, if they're inclined to check out and make sure that person's really a veteran and really eligible and all these things. So,
if somebody does a FOIA request, what should we be? Is there anything we should remove from that for, like HIPAA?
There's certain information you can redact. I kind of had this put on me by Dan Nees. He's preparing for a murder trial on short notice, and I can get you more information on that. However, I did look over the sheet you had prepared today. I didn't see anything there that would need to be redacted, and in one area I saw one where you could even be a little more vague. But you do have to provide sufficient information for the public to be able to identify where their money's going and what it's being spent on. And And again, with a FOIA request, that includes who. It includes some information like addresses, because that's fundamental to an eligibility criteria. You know, that they live in the county. So, that's something to bear in mind. Now, to any extent that you've been doing closed sessions, there are counties around the state that have received other legal advice and have been doing closed sessions. If you're relying on legal advice and you don't have any evil intent, that's an unintentional violation. If it is, I mean, some of these things could be argued, and there's no real penalty. The only penalties are that if somebody was upset about it, if they wanted to challenge the decision that was made in the closed session, it could simply a board could be ordered to review it again in open session. Presumably they'd come to the same decision, and you could obtain an injunction against the board from doing it in the future. But those are unintentional violations as long as you're relying on previous legal guidance and stuff. And like I said, some counties are still doing it. And they have received legal advice that indicates they could. But in my opinion, they're taking a broad view of an exception in the Act. And as I said, statutory construction, when it goes to court, exceptions are to be construed narrowly. They could have written the law the other way. They could have said that all of these items here need to be private and in closed session. And the exceptions which have to be open, are such and such and such and such. That would write the law the other way. And then the presumption would be that it's closed session. But the presumption is open. Yeah.
Mike, when this group was established, I was one of the founders. I was on the Soldiers and Sailors Relief, and I sat through the first meetings of the Veterans Committee, and there was no guideline, so it was established under the guideline of the Michigan Veterans Trust Fund.
Right.
And there wasn't anything official other than that, and it's been going on since then.
And you've hit on why there is probably some confusion out there. Like I said, when we first read it, we looked at, there's this reference in Section 3, Subdivision 11 of the Open Meetings Act that says the Veterans Trust Fund and its district and county committees. When reviewing an emergent need, are not under the Open Meetings Act. So, emergent's not a common word you hear in everyday language. People took that, I think, in many cases to just assume that means like an emergency. And many of the relief requests have to do with emergency relief. That's why they're doing it. But it goes on, gives its own definition right in the article. And bear in mind, this isn't really the Veterans Trust Fund anyway.
No.
But nevertheless, that analysis was kind of carried over. And they said, okay, they're not subject to the Open Meetings Act. That means we can do it in closed session. Well, when you see what they meant was, when it says it means the deliberations need to be carried out because of an emergency need. And then it says they have to be reported at the next regular or special meeting. You can see what they were referring to was not the closed session elements of the Open Meetings Act. They were talking about the notice requirements of the Open Meetings Act. So when they have that emergency meeting, and I've been told by Bill that sometimes it's done by telephone. That's the thing about doing meetings by telephone or email, is that they inevitably involve closing off. I mean, you don't have the public in on those. So just be careful. You can do them, but just like any other meeting, you got to have minutes. Somebody has to take minutes at those meetings. I assume they do. But you take minutes, and unlike a closed session, those minutes are of this meeting are reported at the next regular or special meeting. Those minutes come in from an emergency. That was an emergency meeting you had to deal with an emergent issue. But when you come here to these meetings and you have these applicants, you're already at a regular meeting, so you wouldn't go into closed session for that.
No, we review the paperwork that we did on phone and sign it during the meeting.
Yeah. That's good. Somebody should still take minutes to make sure they have a recording of the action.
So as long as we're not sharing their HIPAA information.
Well, you would share them among the committee members.
Yeah, the committee members, they sign the application that they review. We
Yeah,
don't-
even in your minutes, when you do your minutes from your regular meetings, you don't share their HIPAA information. Like I said, you put, and like I said, I think you can use a number. I don't have a problem with it. It's just that you got to understand, and your applicants need to understand too, that their name can't really be kept secret if somebody wants it. But a lot of times people aren't going to ask.
Mike, a couple of questions. If a veteran requests that his name not be published, does he have that right?
Not really.
Because the checks and everything are never made out to the veteran. They're always made out to whatever services that he needs assistance from. And then the second part of that question, does the office have an obligation to tell them at the time that this is going to be a public record?
You should tell them that. You can tell them that it's our goal, if it is, we're not here to publicize it. We're not writing to the paper. In fact, the paper's going to, if they get the minutes, it's going to have a number by your name. But you should tell them that they can't keep it secret. They are asking the public. I mean, if you needed money and you went next door to your neighbor and asked him for money to help you with some big problem you had, your neighbor would probably want to know what's going on and stuff like that, and he gives you money or he doesn't. Remember, these are people who, and this isn't just veterans, there's other boards that give relief to people. These are people who are asking their neighbors, their fellow taxpayers and neighbors, to give them money for some need they have. And yeah, just like your neighbor has a right to kind of, well, what's this all about, you know? They have a right to know some basic facts. There's a lot that are protected by law, and a lot more than maybe your neighbor might get asked more than that, but nevertheless, the basic facts, yes, they can know that.
I'm assuming then that a person that's making the application has a right to come in here and sit and listen to the conversation and the debate about the money that he wants.
I don't know why he wouldn't, yeah. He could listen to that.
We have people that appeal sometimes, and of course, the appeal is supposed to go to circuit court on our decision, but if they wanted to sit here while we're making our deliberation, then I'm assuming that they would have that right.
To be here also, listen to the deliberation that we have.
I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, unless the statute provides otherwise, is that how you usually do it? Or
Well,
you generally have them leave while you deliberate?
They're not here.
We ask everyone in the room to leave other than the board members when we deliberate on these cases.
You know, the purpose of the Open Meeting Act is for them to hear deliberations. You know, you can have sheets of paper in front of you. Like I said, you can talk about them in numbers, even in your deliberations, even at the open meetings, and identify them by numbers, even though you might have the names in front of you. But again, don't assume that means it's secret, because it's not. That's just done as a courtesy, and in many cases, people aren't going to ask. It wouldn't be available like it would later. But if somebody FOIA says, "Hey, there's a bunch of numbers on here. I'd like to know who those people are." Absolutely, you got to provide. Yes.
Maybe we should put on their request when they're requesting for funds that this request is subject to FOIA. And when they sign and they're requesting, I mean, that kind of covers that.
Yeah, you try not to discourage people from putting in if they're eligible. But they should know that.
Yeah.
They're asking for public dollars. That can be discovered.
The whole story came back when a commissioner, the name of Stewart, was a county commissioner here a number of years back, and he released the name and the press got it. That created a big stir in this county.
Well, you know, sometimes FOIA requests have information that the public's entitled to know that's going to cause a big stir. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, any other questions?
So what's your recommendation as we go? Oh, go ahead. Bob.
When we vote, we do a roll call vote and each individual gives a response to it. Is that part of the regular standard? Because if it gets published out, it's a good way to make enemies on, even on something that's discussed.
If you hold a roll call vote, then it should go in the minutes as.
Well, it does, it says
Yeah,
everything's down. But the other thing is the question, Mr. Snyder wants to video and audio record everything here for reissuing. He wanted stuff to go on the YouTube and everything. He wanted us to meet down on the other. What rights do we have as an individual about either recording audio or video without signing a release and not being under a court order?
It's public record. This is a public commission. And like I said, when it comes under the Open Meetings Act, if there's going to be prohibitions or exceptions, they're going to be construed strictly. So
What's excessive, though? He's got 4 recorders going and a video.
Well, okay, as to that.
The unit is being recorded by us for the proper, making sure the minutes are right.
I understand. As to that, you can, the board is entitled to impose reasonable restrictions if they would disrupt the meeting. That's why, like, for example, for people who attend have a right to address the board, even people in attendance on something. But you can impose reasonable restrictions. You know, you can't just, somebody doesn't have a right to stand here and talk for 20 minutes. You know, invite, you know.
But we have no recourse on the information that Snyder takes out of here. He can show it to anybody, anywhere, anything that was done in this room. Is that correct?
In any context, not in its entirety.
I don't want to get into the legal aspects of, you know, is there any way you could do it that would be wrong or actionable or illegal, or that somebody would suffer a tort? Could you do it in a way that would do that? Believe me, there'd be ways that could happen. But if you're just talking about just a recording of what happened at the meeting, but remember, the public could attend anyway. They come and watch for themselves. And instead they watch it here, you know, as long as it's not, like I said, there are ways you could make it illegal, but that by itself is not illegal. I don't want to give a legal opinion on all the, you know, until I see a certain situation if you're describing it. But as far as how many recording devices there are, you know, you can certainly limit it to one recording device per person. I do not think that'd be unreasonable. What's happening on one recording device, how's that different than another?
Hey, Mike, he's referring to, I do carry, you know, other electronics with me, but like right now and last meeting and most of the commissioner meetings, I got a video going and I got a audio. And just like happened here just a moment ago, is you accidentally bumped it, it kicked off. I reset it, but that was still on.
Well,
so that's not, I don't feel that that's excessive. One's
don't.
video, one's audio.
Like I said, I don't want to.
And I know.
You know, I mean, you're on a board. Everybody should try to get along, and do it in a reasonable way.
Sure.
Usually, the board members don't record, but you know, the law indicates they can. And
Well, I'll go on record to say I don't trust Snyder being on this board. I know what he did to this office before, and I do not feel comfortable sitting at the same table with him because I don't trust him. I think he'll do whatever he can to remove most of us on this board now and replace him with his own hand-picked people to serve the veterans of this county. I have no other reason to not to believe that his past involvement with this office and as a director of this board was not for the betterment of the veterans of Shiawassee County.
well, just let me say this: I'm not offering any opinion on any of that. All I can say is that the Board of Commissioners pick the members of this board. If they're inclined to They're the ones entrusted by the people to select the members of the board. They have authority to do that. They have if the Board of Commissioners won't control it, then, you know, I don't know what to tell you. But that is they're the representatives that pick the board members.
Thank you, Mike.
Any questions about anything else?
No, I think that pretty much does it.
What would you recommend? Should we go on a closed session, or?
I would recommend that you, unless you know, there's other items here that are more explicit. If you're disciplining an employee or stuff, if you've got a special issue coming up, feel free to ask. You know, a lot of them come under regular exceptions and they fit right into them. But your general outlook should be like the general rule of the law, which is to provide public availability to all public meetings and access to the information. And, you know, so my advice would be, as a general rule, would be an open session. If you're going to go in closed session, there's a procedure for doing that. You got to do it on motion. You got to state the reason. You got a motion and a second. It's two-thirds vote, I think. In most cases, not all. Some it does not. There's like in 6 of the exceptions, it does not take a two-thirds vote. You know, for example, an employee who's being there have been allegations made against, or they're being considered for discipline. The employee can demand a closed session, and can at some point demand that we go back open if they want to, or demand that it stay closed during that investigation. And that's not a vote. That's just done that way. Like I said, there's 6 of the exceptions don't have to vote. The other ones do, and you do have to state the reason and take a two-thirds vote.
So if we go into a closed session for whatever reason, we still have to come back out in order to do a roll call vote, correct? Anytime we're spending money.
Yeah, you talk about roll call. I mean, the vote has to be done in public. In a closed session, you can discuss your feelings on it.
And do straws or whatever.
Even to the extent of a straw vote. Because sometimes in a closed session, you're going to talk about what you would be willing to agree to, and somebody else talks, well, I'd do it if it was this, and I'd do it if that, and you kind of come to what you think your proposal is going to be, and you think you have consensus, and then you come out, and then you have to state what it is you're doing, and what the motion is, and what it is that's being done, and the vote is taken then. If it's something that calls for a roll call, or if somebody demands a roll call, then you do a roll call, so you can do a voice vote. But, yes, when you come out, that is the action. And whatever you did in the closed session, but an individual may have changed their mind. They can, when the official vote is taken, they can still vote the other way. Because that deliberation takes place on the open session of the meeting.
It's basically the exact same thing that the folks down in the chairs do. You make a motion to go into closed. You can discuss, and then you have to make a motion, come out of closed, back into open, then you have to vote. That's all open meeting stuff. And by our own agendas and minutes.
Well, sometimes you don't. Sometimes there's no vote to be taken when you come out of closed.
You know, so if we're going to play by the rules, we have to do it all the way.
Thank you, Mike.
Mike, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care, Mike.
Okay. We have number 5 out of the way. Number 6 is approval of last meeting's minutes. Tab 2. Everybody read those, hopefully. I need a motion to approve the July 19th, 2017.
Make a motion to approve those minutes.
I'm not approved with Les Snyder exited the meeting. It was more than exited.
I was
But
going to
other than that, yes, I'll second.
All right, motion is made and supported. Motion by Mike and seconded by Bob to approve the minutes of the last meeting. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Excuse me, I'm
Sorry.
supposed to go to a discussion.
Yeah, okay. You're right.
And I agree with Bob that I don't agree with completely with the minutes. of last meeting is because when I did leave, it was because of the issue of the closed session, and it does not show that. And so I could be.
I think you made it clear when you left here what you were leaving for. You just said, I can't participate in this.
You said it was illegal, and that's what I think it should say.
And I agree. I'm just saying it doesn't reflect that, and it should.
Okay. And insert that in the minutes. That Les Schneider said that the meeting was illegal and that he left.
Works for me?
Correct?
Yeah, works for
Where
me.
we at?
All right.
We'll make sure.
You
Got a motion
approve
and a
the
second.
change?
I want to make sure.
Absolutely.
And Bob, you agree with that?
Yeah, that's what,
Okay.
that's it.
Nope. No
Then-
problems at all.
Any other
That's right.
changes to the minutes?
But I want to make sure I reread it so it's correct. Okay, where we at?
So, second page.
Start at the second page.
Let's make your exit.
Meeting,
He said,
what do you, how?
when we went through
Les
it most
Schneider
lately, he said it was illegal.
At 3:30 PM,
Yeah, that's the line.
stating,
He left because he considered the minute, or the
Closed
meeting
closed
illegal.
session was illegal and I left.
so. Closed session.
Martha got that too. Okay, any other changes to the minutes? If not, all in favor of the minutes as corrected, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same.
All right.
I just want to make sure it says exactly right. Les Snyder exited meeting at 3:30 PM stating felt closed session illegal and left.
Yeah.
Good with that? Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll retype this, John, for signatures.
okay,
You've got the motions.
we'll do it next meeting. Burial report.
Burial report, you don't need to turn the tab, I'll give you that. Right now, we've got 4 applications. They're totaling $1,300. You got 1 for $400 and 3 for $300. The 3 for $300 didn't need the attachment fees because they were widows or they didn't need it. And with that approval, the balance would go, the balance remaining in the burial account would be $14,300, and that would move it up to 28.5% has been issued for burial budget so far.
Yeah, that's not in the,
We don't have it printed.
No, you'll have
Not in
the
the
actual applications
report.
signed, because you all sign it. We've got the burial applications here so you can review them. Just hand them.
So most of the good month,
yeah, I know. We discussed, we thought it was a good month, but he passed away. It just isn't in the burial.
The total amount was 1,300, and there were 4.
Okay. Motion then to approve the burial report and the applications and the amount of money of $1,300.
So moved.
I have a motion
Second was John.
by Ron, supported by Bob. And I need a
Roll call.
roll call vote.
Roll call. Doug.
Yes.
Ron.
Yes.
Robert.
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Doug. Les.
Yes.
And Michael.
Yes.
Yes.
Good job.
Is it John? John.
Yes. Okay. Forgotten again. All right. We have the director's report, monthly service reports, tab 5, and we will put those up on the screen here.
Director's report. Right now, we have 5 applications to go before the board. That's not up there yet, I'm just gonna give you some numbers. And awaiting approval, that would be, the total applications, all of them are approved, be $5,969.18. With the approval, that would leave a balance of about, as of, I had a printout, what you have here The results are last month, but the actual printout would leave a balance of $116,987.95. That would be a spend of 22.8%. As of August, we'd spent, at the end, as of August, it would be $28,542.87. That was as of August 14th. And then we spent year-to-date, if we add the $5,969.18, that would give us a year-to-date of $34,512.05. That's just a brief summary of the 5 applications go before the board. The next screen, what you have here, here's what we spent year-to-date with the Michigan Veterans Trust Fund. Actually, this is the fund that's up until April. They're sending us so much every quarter, and then it's being spent, but now all that's in Lansing. We don't even touch this money. We go forward. You'll see this on until the end of the year, and then it'll drop off. We won't be tracking that one. PA 214.
This bill,
Yes.
you were saying though that Michigan Trust Fund at the end of the year will no longer be available?
It'll still be out there, but we won't have the monies coming through the county. That hasn't happened. All the monies go through the state. We still have that board, but the monies don't come through here. We don't touch any of that. That's all done by the trust fund. And that's in the.
And they would still be eligible for that?
Oh yeah, they're still eligible for that.
They have to go through the state?
Yes. Well, they would come here for it until we go to, if we do go to the regional model.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But we're still here to assist them with it. We still have a meeting. This month, we didn't have any applications for that one, so that meeting got canceled.
Okay, thank you.
It's just for our purposes, we're not budgeting, we're not doing anything with these monies.
Yeah.
We can connect it together.
This is where the PA 214, this was as of the end of July. Another number I gave you earlier, the spending would be about, if we put on all the, if we went the full amount, the total spending would be, instead of 27, it would be the $34,512.05.
That's with 5 today, right?
Yes, this isn't with the 5 today, that doesn't reflect that. If we have the 5 today, that's what we're bringing out. Well, the burials, right now we're at 4,400, and that spending right there, if we add the additional 1,300, there would be out of the 20,000, there would be 14,300 left. Transportation, I want to make sure everybody, we talked about it last month, but right here about down at the bottom. So far, we had one out of contract person where you had to take a regular trip, would cost about $40, it costs $180. Right now, scheduled for August, we have 2 additionals. That would be about $360 to cover the veteran for the transportation.
Where's that extra expense going to come from?
That extra expense, it's in the budget for that, but one of the things I know that SATA, Langsburg is one of the townships that wasn't participating. That's my understanding that Langsburg voted to be added in. But there is, that's one of the things, right, Brandon, we budgeted about, what was it, 20,000, 20 to 40,000, worst case scenarios out there for that. So that's one of the things we want to make sure that we're, I mean, when you look at year-to-date, we still got about 116,000 to spend on it. So there should be, when we looked at the numbers and everything, we figured the max based on the number of rides last year. If everybody went out of county or out of contract, it'd be approximately 40,000. So at 40, even if we went 40,000, that would be for the whole year. We'd have enough in there.
Thank you.
Almost cheaper to
No.
buy another van, to pay $180 every time you go to Saginaw back.
And that's an option too, because when you look at what the numbers are for the vans, correct me if I'm wrong, you may have even more up to speed on this, but one of the things, in order to have the van, you have to go out at least, what was it, 1,200 miles per month or 800 miles per month, and the bottom line is, we had enough there where we could justify 2 vans. The challenge is gonna be getting drivers.
Yeah.
And volunteer drivers who not paying anything. Here's where we're at with the OLSA. $6,000 here today. Here's where we're at, the grand total for emergency help is about $37,000. Veterans contacts. Last month, you can see it's still continuing. The highest contacts is the Vietnam veterans. We had 17 new to the office. One of the things I want to make sure you see, about a month, the most that we see a month new would be about 33. We're averaging per month with veterans contacts. With the new vets, it's about 17 a month. One of the things, I want to pull up a slide here from the county fair. Up until this year, we weren't really tracking, like, oh, we got so many people come through the booth, half of them, 3/4 of them are from out of county, all this stuff. So this year what we did is we tracked how many were in county. We had a total of 193 veterans come through our booth. Out of that, 125 were somebody has been to this office before, 21 had never been to this office before and they were in this county. We had 47 were out of county. About 24% of them were out of county, so that meant the other 76% were in county. And what I like new right here is 11% were from new, never been to this office before. You figure, where else can we get 21 people in 1 week that exposure to our office? So I know we didn't do it last year, and in the past we had done it, but I'd recommend we go forward, because up until we went to the fair, I think we only had 2 people that had said, yeah, I've been to the fair in the past. And then since we've been to the fair last week, how many do we have so far to come to?
We already had 2.
We already had 2. It hasn't been a week yet.
I think in this case, we should have larger booth than next year and more exposure, because it was rather small, and if I hadn't recognized Martha, I probably wouldn't have stopped. But
Okay.
we
And that's-
just got to have a bigger booth if we're getting this kind of response for what a small area we had.
Our area was free this year because we shared a space with the Emergency Operations Center and Department of Community Health. And as we go next year, we can, that's by all means, I will with that, said, we need money. Go ahead.
What space did you have, Bill?
We had
This
a
is a neighborhood
space
table.
They
about
had this.
about the size of this table right here.
Really?
But the
Yeah.
full space,
Yeah.
we had like, the health department had 2 long tables like this, and then EOC had the other one on the end, so we had kind of a U. But I mean, we can set it up so we have more space and have our own spot.
Because this board authorized, I think, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, products to use for the fair. I don't recall, Sean, you recall what it was that we authorized?
You had a big awning, bunch of flags, some table.
We had lapel
So that's
pins.
yeah.
probably still in possession somewhere in the
Yeah,
building.
we've got the 10, but we were inside the commercial building,
Yeah.
Yep.
so that was a plus because we're exposed to the.
So we're in the commercial building this year?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're in the same building?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Next year, if we pay, hopefully we'll get a booth where if it rains, it doesn't run down on our booths.
They were down about halfway on the north side of the building.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Somebody should say something.
Somebody's gonna say
I don't know.
And so far, year to date, we're still sitting at the 5 homeless. And a couple of things I want to cover. Events coming up. I went to the Honey Festival up in Frankenmuth, they do, up in one of the counties out in the Thumb area, they do what is called a therapies. You'll hear more about that tomorrow. Want to make sure everybody's you're all invited tomorrow at between 1 and 3 at Memorial Hospital, Mitchell, at the Mitchell Center for the Veterans Community Action Team Region 6 meeting. We'll be over there. The office, because Noah's part-time, he had to drive this week, so he won't be tomorrow, but we're closing the office down tomorrow from 1 until 5 because it'll be Martha and I out there. She'll be working registration. I'll be participating in a VCAT, and Casey's not here, so I want to make sure everybody knew that. And then, but anyway, the therapies, they'll talk about that. That's where they bring in, they'll have veterans. They have a transitional home out in the Thumb area. We've actually sent 2 single veterans there since I've been here. And what it is, if they don't have a job or a skill, they train them to be beekeepers, work with them. They'll work with the USDA to help them to become beekeepers. Understand there's quite a demand for it. I didn't realize how many products they make with bee honey and all that, and the meat. What else we have here? Then I just wanted to remind everybody, or some training that Martha and I just finished. And VA is putting out, they're trying to streamline or expedite the processes for these claims. I want to make sure you put it out there and you understand and say, oh yeah, they're supposed to process in 30 days. This isn't meant for a new claim to be processed in 30 days. And we just completed a training, Martha and I, the last 2 days, and it's called DRC. DRC stands for
Putting me on the spot.
Decision ready claims.
And what that means, that, and what VA has done is targeted the claims that they're going to work with that initially for the pilot. First, they're doing with existing claims for increases only, and then they'll go into DIC. DIC, what that is meant for the death benefits for a surviving spouse or dependent. So what that being said, it's a very, people say, oh, 30 days or less. No, not like the Domino's 30 minutes or less. It's 30 days or less for a request for increase for claim. Now that's, they need to have all their evidence, any new evidence to support. And one of the things we tell the veterans, anytime they come in here, if you have a rating decision, let's say you're rated at 25% or 20% and your buddy's at 100% and you think you should have 100% just because. That's not a reason. You need to have new and material evidence, current evidence. That doesn't mean you go back to when you were in the service, I had this or that, and now well, you've already turned that in to get your initial claim, your rating. This is meant just for increased claims. So there's certain things they have to have. They have to have their intent to file. They have to do their power of attorney. They have to have a recent power of attorney into the system, and they have to have new evidence. Now, part of that evidence means that it supports, yes, they've gone to this. And there are certain things that they have, ways they have to do it. Like, for instance, they can't just say, I'm going to go to my buddy, the doctor over here, if they're claiming for instance, let's say it's PTSD. They have to go to a licensed psychologist. There's very few in the area to do that. Otherwise, it'll be a contracted professional, rather astute, Logistics Health Institute, LHI or QTC. One of the things we need to tell our veterans, if they're going for that for an increase, they need, when they go to get an examination, it's going to be a contractor who's going to call them. It's not going to be the VA calling them. It's going to be QTC or LHI. And when I was in Houston in February, I heard some of the voicemail messages that LHI had left. Hi, we've contacted, we've left, you have no less, we've left messages, and we're sending you this letter because you haven't responded to our request to set up an examination. Therefore, your process is terminated. So one of the things is, if somebody is scheduled if they call the veteran's house and it's not the VA, we need to make sure, and they need to understand that if it is one of the contracted providers, they